All right, people. We are live, and happy Tuesday, everybody. And I am excited and happy to start the first interview for the Canine Freedom Dog Talks. And I am happy to talk to my good friend Allison, who has not just spoken once, but not twice, but three times in a row, like back to back. And I would think she would be tired of talking to me, but
No way.
she enjoyed the interviews as much as I did. So
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I super appreciate it. And the only talks I have done are with you. And turns out we've gotten a lot of positive feedback together, and I absolutely enjoy it. So I look forward to this one.
absolutely. So yeah, Allison, in case we have some new viewers and things like that, why don't you introduce yourself and your company and where you're at?
So my name is Allison Chambers, and I am the owner and head trainer of Complete Canine Dog Training, based out of Palm Beach and Broward counties, Florida. That's South Florida. I do a lot of work with puppies and on and off leash obedience, as well as behavior mod. And behavior mod is kind of my specialty. So I work with a lot of problem cases, whether it be aggression, um, it, all over. But I really like to teach dog owners the why behind their dog's behavior. I talk a lot about biological fulfillment, and pretty much I do exclusively in home private dog training. Um, but I've got clients all over the country. So that's who I am and what I do and where I'm from.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and for for the backstory, Allison was at the Colorado conference that I saw you the first time, or?
Yes, but before that, please introduce yourself as well so that my clients know all about you.
All right, it's all about me. Uh, my name's Kevin Lee, as most of you know, or I like to call myself the Kevin Lee, or for my IACP members who especially went to the conference last year, I received the nickname Sugar. I will tell you the details why later. But I'm a dog trainer located in Northern California in Santa Rosa, and I do the same thing as Allison. I do private lessons in the home or at a local park. I also do large field socialization classes that I learned from Jason Vasconi and Heather Beck, and
Amazing.
uh, been doing been doing this business for 4 years, 5 years now. So and yeah, just been wanting to. Just your humble dog trainer friend that just wants to go to workshops and explore all the different methods and just be the best trainer I can be.
Awesome.
All right, you got a fan already commenting. Looking forward to hearing from you, Allison.
Yeah. What's up, Heather? Nice to hear from you, girl.
Yeah, and anybody that's watching right now or have questions, feel free to just put in the comments or let us know you're here, and we'll do a little shout out to you guys. And yeah, otherwise we're Allison and I are just gonna talk and go with the flow. And if you have any questions, just let us know. So okay, so Allison, so we're here to talk about house manners
House
with dogs
manners.
at the home. So what are some what are some behaviors or like things that clients have issues with their dogs at home that you see that are most popular?
Oh man, I can open a can of worms for you. So let's start here. So one thing that I often tell pet owners is that a lot of the real dog training happens when the trainer isn't there. Um, so if your dog has some issues that you're struggling with, the very first thing you can kind of do to help yourself is to go back and put your dog on a leash.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, and that is usually not something that most pet owners want to hear. Um, but when I am raising puppies, and I want them to have good house manners, where I typically start is I have puppies drag a leash throughout the house. So, um, you know, and I'm sure we'll go into what house manners really looks like. Let's preface by saying if your dog is struggling with house manners, let's put on a leash on the dog inside the house to start.
Yep. Yeah, I think like I mean you get behaviors like attention seeking behaviors, whether it's like taking food or things from the table or the coffee table, or you have like you have a little bit of demand barking or like wanting to play or snatching a pillow from the couch. I mean I also get a lot of clients getting a lot complaining about like jumping, whether it's jumping on guests or jumping on them. So it's I feel like most of the time when clients get new puppies or get dogs from from the rescue, I think they kind of just give a little bit way too much freedom in the sense they just open the door to go, welcome to my house. Oh, go here. Here's my bedroom. Here's my backyard. Oh, here's your spot on the couch on the TV for you. And they kind of wait till it gets bad to call us per se, like sometimes, but it kind of varies between puppies and like adult dogs.
Right, right. So, like you said, they kind of wait until it gets bad. So, especially if it's a new dog to them, or to you, or whoever it is, um, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think that's the saying. Um, putting a leash on the dog from the start to kind of teach expectations is pretty much the way to go with a young dog or a new dog. Um, so, like you said, it depends on what kind of dog you have. So, I'm going to assume, just for the sake of talking, we're talking about a young dog, 8 to 12 months old, that's flew through the puppy stuff, quote unquote, um, but is starting to kind of push limits a little bit and seek their own fun. You know what I mean? Like the dogs that have been taught sit down, stay, come, whatever. But inside the house, they may start to put their paws up on the counter, or they start to bark at the sliding glass door. That's where I feel like most people are starting to kind of drift off a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like too. God, yeah, I had a thought bubble and then it totally just burst as soon as I went to grab it.
The night is young, Kevin.
I mean, not it is for you. It's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock. The sun's still up right now. So,
Uh-huh.
let me see. I think the big, I think like for the most part, we as trainers always talk about having the clients be proactive than reactive to the dog's behavior. But then for the most part, like when they're not talking, when they don't speak to a trainer, they don't actually get a chance to actually be proactive and teach like boundaries, like rules per se about like not, like what's to be expected. The dog, it's just pretty much like the dog does it, and then the owner's like, no, no, stop it, and just not in a not don't have like a teaching opportunity. They kind of just go and yell out like, hey, stop that, hey, get off the couch, hey, get down. And I feel like for the owner, like at first, the key thing I feel like they're missing is like they don't take the time to teach those opportunities. Like they don't take the time to teach what's expected of the like what's preferred, what's not preferred. Like every time the dog jumps on them, they always push the dog down. They always back away. They go off, off. But then I always ask, have you ever practiced setting up the dog to not jump? And they go, no, I haven't. I said, okay, that's where my best friend, the leash, is on the floor, right? And the leash, like I I love having the leash on. I like kind of going out of a tandem here because there's so much to talk about, but it's literally like I'm gonna bring up an example for people in the sense like, like if you get a job, you first get a job, you're not immediately promoted to like CEO or like, you don't get you there's in a human job, there's never like you get hired to the job, you work the next day, and you immediately get all the benefits like right off the bat, right? Like you have to like
That's a good one, actually. I like that.
yeah, like for you, like for us, like we have to go from like coffee boy to intern to like mail boy to like associate, and then you slowly work your way to like, a manager position, and then you later go up to it's like a ladder system where you go up, 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 but then I talk to my clients like, have you been hired and been promoted so fast? And they go, no. And it's like, so you're doing that with your dog where you go from here and then you give them all the benefits like the next day. And that's where it's like the dogs have too many options. And, just having the leash, especially like when you first get the dog home, it's like you should have like at least 2 weeks, like the honeymoon phase to just, you know, supervise the dog, and prevention is key, and the leash is there so you're not like grabbing the collar or like just like doing just being extra handsy with the dog, and you could step on the leash, you could have the leash clipped to you could have the dog on like a tie down, like how we're talking about, just and the leash is just there to help the humans in general, like it's and then once you really don't need it, then you can take the leash off, like when you feel
Right.
like when you feel like they earn the freedom or they know what's expected around the house, that's the big thing is we give too much freedom too soon, and then we get mad at the dog for not understanding what we want from them, so
Right. So a leash is just what I tell people is when your dog doesn't have the training yet, that's when you go back to and you rely on management a little bit more. And step
hmm
one with management is just putting the dog on a leash to kind of help prevent the behavior. So especially if your dog is jumping up on people at the front door, the best way to stop that and prevent that immediately is to control the dog by simply putting a leash on it so you're stopping that behavior. Um, so the same goes, I think, for inside. I think people kind of seem to, or pet owners seem to really reserve the leash for outside use only. You can use the leash for inside use as well. And it doesn't have to be a 6 foot leash, it can be a 4 foot leash, it could be a tab leash, whatever is safe for your dog. Um, and it depends on what you're using it for as well. So,
yep,
um, just to go back to what you were saying before, and to kind of make an example out of it, a very common thing that I hear is when people sit down on the couch, the puppy comes at them flying like this. So, um, sometimes we forget what pictures the dog has seen. So if the dog is constantly sitting and practicing sit when you're standing, 5, 6 feet above them, when you sit down and your face is a lot closer to their face, that's very exciting for most puppies and most dogs. So have you practiced having your dog sit when you're sitting on the couch or having them come up and sit? Um, so typically, a lot of what I see, when as soon as people sit down, we need to teach the dog how to behave right when the owners come and sit down on the couch, which is a simple sit, simple automatic sit. Um,
hmm
and we can go into that, but that's a very simple house manner, because most people want their dogs in their space in the living room with them. That's one thing if you want your dogs up on the furniture or not, but how nice would it be if you sat down on the couch, like I am here, and you sit down and all your dogs sit for attention? Because guess what? The dog's going to ask you for attention when you're not paying attention. And that's usually when I'm sitting down.
I mean, yeah, especially when you live in a multiple dog home, like you got 3 dogs, right? No, you got 4 dogs.
I have 4 dogs. Three of
Yep,
them
and
are
then
loose with me, and I got one tethered.
yep, and I got the 5. I've got 4 of them in the crates. They're chewing their bones while I talk, so they don't distract me because they're needy as hell. I got the one downstairs. She's an old lady, so I they are definitely some of them are the ones that if I'm sitting on the couch, they whoop, and it doesn't help that I may have indulged them just a little bit. But anyway, the dog trainer dogs have a little bit of exceptions. So, um,
I definitely have
but
two sitting right next to me right now. That's for sure.
right, yeah. So and then like hold on, I'm just going through the comments right now. But let's see.
Hi,
I
Linda.
She's been demoted from sporting dog to study buddy and is giving me hell right now. And then there's another one
I'll give you
that
some
I'll
backup info on that one.
yeah.
You'll like that one.
And then Heather says, love the analogy. Thank you, Heather. And then you have Aaron.
Hi, Erin.
Love the idea of sitting down on the couch and practicing that with them. Also, hey girl.
Hey, girl. Hey.
And then oh, this is a big one. Let me just skim through this real quick. Abby, you can ask the questions in the comments. 2.5-year-old dog is a sweetheart, but barks at strangers. New guests in the house. We'll go back. We'll go back to that one. I think that
Oh,
one
I
is kind.
love that stuff.
I think that one's a. I think definitely that one will be a big question later in the chat that we can talk about. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think for the most part, like yeah, everyone like how we're talking about like no like I think also too, everyone likes it when the dog comes in their space and it's like they go, "Oh, the dogs love me." I was like, "Oh," and they just let them all over in their space. But then when the dog gets like, I don't know, 30 pounds bigger, 50 pounds bigger, or when the dog really starts jumping or is like really obnoxious, then they complain, "Okay, he's doing this too much." And it's like, well, you invited them in their space in your space so much, then you really didn't give rules about no, like don't come up to my space, and then they care about is sitting on you, pressing on you, breathing in your face like this, because I'm sure, I worked with a lot of Goldens and Labs, and usually the Goldens are like right here breathing on my face, and they just do not see anything wrong with it, and I'm just like, can you not? And
I call
so
that
it's like
dragon breath when they're
it's
just
just
there breathing.
it's the especially like when it's like hot out in the summer and it's just like and I'm like, dog, it is too hot already and you're breathing hot air on me, go away.
That's dragon
um
breath. We call that dragon breath around here.
yeah, and especially like when you're on the ground, like nobody really practices that either because you're hardly on the ground if you're an adult, but if you have kids, you're more likely to have that, but also just the whole difference between standing 6 feet standing and then you on a doing like the butterfly position like on the ground is such a big difference. And it's just like I feel like also you lose some personal power just like from being on the ground and like being on their level because they feel like they can just I feel like because usually when that time is they're just you're on the ground so they assume that you're there too.
Well, the classic one is when people are working out, they put their yoga mat down, and then the dog comes right over and messes everything up. Um,
Yeah.
I know my dogs are definitely not allowed in the gym for that very purpose because they're like, I don't understand what you're doing. Um, typically when we crouch down to them, that's an invitation into our space, so I don't really blame them. Um, but yeah, let's go back a little bit, and let's talk about some house manners that you expect out of your dogs.
hmm So let's see. I think what's the- what's the first one you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about jumping? Do you want to talk about taking stuff from the counters and the couch and things like that, or do you want to talk about the more demanding attention, like whether it's barking or if it's like them doing something in the other room to get your attention while you're working or something?
Right. I forget my list. I need to go back and check it. Okay, everybody. So I told Kevin that this was going to happen, but I made a list of stuff that I want to talk about, and I'm very visual, so I need to look at my list. So give me 1 second. Hold on.
She's not leaving. I promise,
I
guys.
promise I'm not ghosting you guys.
She multitasks because she's streaming.
Okay,
She's
so
streaming and looking on the phone at the same time. So
Um, okay, so here's a simple one. Because this answer is different for everybody, so there's gonna be different answers, and I'll answer based on my household. Um, but the question that I wanted to ask was, where does play happen in your household? Because I like to play with my dogs. I know you love to play with your dogs, but where does play happen in your household? So, like you said, you know, bending down and inviting the dog into your space doesn't always mean I want you to come over. Um, so a big one that I find common with puppy owners is they get the dog all excited. They want to play with the dog. That's fine. And they might play with the dog on the couch because the puppy is small and cute. And guess what? It's only this big, right? But guess what? When you're napping on the couch watching Netflix, and the puppy's a little bit bigger, and then she comes running over, trampling your face because she wants to play. um, guess what you've been practicing with her, which is you're getting her all wound up on the couch. So if you want to play with her and you want to teach your dog playing on the couch is fine. That might be okay in your household if you have one dog or if you allow that. But for me, I have four very active dogs. And that does not work. That does not work. And I'm sure it's the same with you. So, um, going into my house, I do have toy boxes for my dogs. So I teach my dogs when they get excited that they can go over and grab a toy. That's a big thing for my dogs. However, we don't really like throw toys. We don't really play tug inside. That's all active play outside. So my dogs are totally have the option to kind of go and grab something to work on, whether it's a bone or a chew or a toy to squeak, whatever. Um, that's something that as puppies, I really drilled into them when we get back from a walk or we come back inside. If they're excited and they need to play, I want them to go over and seek out the toy box. I need to make that toy box important to them. So, um, going back to house manners, especially when I was raising a young Malinois, a walk might just warm her up, but she'd come back and she'd shred stuff. So giving them the appropriate outlet for that energy and teaching them, like you said, what you want. So for things that I want is I want my dogs to sit when I sit down on the couch. And when they're excited, I want them to practice going over and grabbing stuff from the toy box.
Hmm.
They're allowed to initiate play, but it's got to be the appropriate thing.
Yeah, and actually reminded me of something that expands on that too. I feel like most people, like when they work at home or when they're at home, they're watching TV or they're on a Zoom meeting or things like that, and they're playing like I feel like for me sometimes too, like when your dogs are playing with a toy, like their own dog toy, some people don't pay attention to that, and they're just like, oh, it's nothing, nor nothing to react or uh to acknowledge, right? But then when the dog starts figuring out, I can grab this pillow right here on the couch, or I can grab this sock over here, or I can grab the towel right from the dishwasher, and then immediately they walk by the room and they get a reaction from you, and then the person's like, what do you got in your mouth, or like, hey, what, drop it, and the dog's like, oh, this mom, not mom wants to play with me now that I have this in my mouth. I'm gonna start doing this a little bit more often to get some interaction or acknowledgement, right? And then they run away, and it's like this built-in chase me game, and the dog is just like, I'm having so much fun, versus like if I just play with my regular toy, no one acknowledges me. So I feel like dogs can definitely train people very well sometimes, where it's just like, oh, I pick up this pillow, watch it gets my mom and dad to play with me right away, grab it, and then you know everyone reacts to it in the wrong way. Whereas like I start telling people now, it's like, okay, now you have to do the opposite, where
Yeah, why aren't
soon
you
as
that excited when they're playing with the toy? You should
yeah,
have
it's
that
like
much of a reaction when they're playing with the right thing versus the wrong thing.
yeah, so I go and tell people like, okay, now you gotta, now your dog's training new. Now you have to flip the switch. Now you have to make it where like, if your dog starts going for the right toy, if your dog starts going for anything but like all the dog appropriate toys, that's when you could be like, good puppy, or like, like get fake a reaction where it's like you're pretending to be like, what's that you got? What you got there? And then play with that dog toy instead of the actual pillow or like the items you don't want taken, right? Because the dog like the dog's thinking in their head like, how do I get this person to do stuff with me? Or like I feel like because they're literally just sitting at home all day, like if they're not going out like doing like daycare or like giving them something to do. Like the dog's just watching our habits and patterns every day, from our tennis shoes to our running shoes, and then like picking up the keys. So I feel like the dogs are just studying us like as we're like doing things, and then the owners don't really catch that until like I start explaining it like this way, and then they go, huh, I didn't think of it that way. I'm like, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
a dog's whole life is what's more fun. That's the cheat code to everything. What is more fun in this moment right now is what your dog is thinking at all times. What could be
yeah,
more fun right now than what I'm doing?
yeah. And I also feel like, for the majority of the dogs is like I don't feel like they're not getting much fulfillment, or I don't feel like they don't get as much like enrichment as they need, and so they feel like they have to come up with their own fun, or and then they go, okay, I'm going to just chew the drywall over here, or I'm just gonna go and like grab grab the turkey from grab the turkey on Thanksgiving, or like I'm just gonna grab this sock that the kids left out, and they start figuring out like what they like. If we don't give them something to do, then they kind of find their own fun, and unfortunately most of the time like they find their own fun. Most owners want to yell at them and
Right.
complain,
So for
so
that 6 month old puppy that has a boost of energy and wants to play, um, a big thing that I also tell young dog owners is if your dog wants to play, that's totally fine, but let's play outside, especially if they want to run around and it's big crazy play. That's fine, but you might want to do it outside in the backyard. And that's when I ask the dogs if they want to go out and we play in the backyard. So that I found to be super helpful too, to kind of to have owners redirect all that instead of chasing the dog right there and giving them the attention like you said. um, it's fine for them to have that burst of energy because they're going to as young dogs, but redirect it where you want it.
mhm. Yep. Yeah, I mean, definitely just I think just having that opportunity, like opening that window of opportunity, which I'll go more in depth with Jay Jack, like once I do his interview, which it'll be like I think it'll be like 2 weeks from now, like after.
That'll be such a good one. I'm excited to see that.
Oh man, I'm excited to do it too. Like although we're gonna have to give a heads up that it might be a lot of censoring. There's like, because Jay loves the curse, so
I was
just
gonna
just
ask
for
about that too. I was like, what's the cursing policy? Because there might be a few that slip out that I might not mean to, but I'm sorry,
if
it's just
you're not Jay Jack, so like so I the swearing, it's totally fine, but just not every sentence, I would
try my
say.
best. Try my best.
um, but yeah, it's like I think between like having those opportunities to open those open that time to play, or just know like, okay, if you want to play, we go outside to do that. Because I think like right now people just go like they don't have like a direction to go, or they don't know what to do when that happens. So it's like I think for us we have to provide that pattern, provide like the clarity, like, okay, if you want to play, we'll play outside. inside
Exactly.
inside we
Exactly.
inside we keep it low key. And like like sometimes I just help people, I tell people like, if you're coming back from home after like an 8 to 5 job, and you come back, it's like, if you like between training or like between like some exercise, and you want the dog to hang out the living room, but you don't want to put the dog in the crate like in like the bedroom, things like that, like you could have the tether, you can have you can have the X pen, just put in the middle of the living room or wherever. Like you can still have the dog around you socially, but at least physically he's not going to be like all over the place. And it's just like just for a brief moment where if you need to sit down and have a meal, or if you need to go take a shower, but you're scared that your dog's just gonna rip the stuffing out of your favorite pillow on the couch. It's like no, like learn how to manage. It's important to just know how to manage. Like if you're not supervising them, if you can't watch them, then have them put away, and you can give them like a chew, you can give them like a frozen Kong, like have it where, oh my god, the sun is really shining up here. It's like I was not
That
expecting this
peak
much.
part of the day.
I was not expecting that sunlight to be so glimmering. So, um, but if you're not proactive, I feel like being preventive is also important, especially when you have a dog that is still figuring out the rules. Because I feel like most dogs, when they do stuff, they're trying to figure out the limits, okay, on like how far can they go, or what can they do, what they can't do, And I feel like most owners don't have the time, or they don't effectively know how to first let them know what is and what is acceptable. I think most of the time it's like, you get the clients that hold on to the past dog they had, and then they get the new dog, and then they go, oh, my dog Spot never did this, and it's like, yeah, that was your old dog. This is a whole new individual right here, So it's definitely like I have some struggle here that I definitely run into that a little bit. I don't know if you've encountered some of that.
Yeah, and like I said, you actually made two really good points that I could just go on and on about was the tether. Um, and I tell all my clients that if you really want the $1 million trick to dog training to a nice chill dog, you need to tether your dog. And I really don't really do like a lot of tethering to the person. Um, I really tether dogs to whatever is appropriate and safe and will keep the dogs just secure. So in Florida, we have a lot of sliding glass doors. So I'm typically using sliding glass doors or whatever furniture is strong enough to anchor the dog. But I like a nice short tether. And the whole point being is that your dog has enough space to get up and move around, but not enough to get up and do stuff that you wouldn't like them to do. But also, because they're on a tether, they kind of figure out their options and they learn to just settle themselves.
Hmm.
So I have one dog in a tether right now. She's always tethered post dinner because we can't fully trust her off leash in the house quite yet. But it has taught her to chill out. And no one likes to practice the tether. It's not fun. This is the not fun part of dog training. But um, teaching your dog to just decompress and just be without the need of anything else is a huge underrated skill that most pet owners really struggle with.
Yep, teaching your dog to do nothing. That's one of the big golden things that I love to teach and just explain, because even just talking to Mar- Martin Wright, like we were talking about the art of doing nothing and just stepping on the leash and
One of
just,
my favorite things of all time.
yeah, because like it's like a little rough at first, but once your dog gets it, then that's when you can go, that's what I want, and then it just makes things a lot easier for you. Like I tell.
Please don't bark. Please don't. Please don't bark.
Oh, live moment right here. Like here's our case study.
There's no. Please, this is a better time. Please
Oh
don't
my
bark.
gosh, that's so funny. Um, like the example with stepping on a leash, like if you teach a puppy to do that, or a young dog that age to step on the leash and be okay with it, then that helps you when your dog goes out like at a brewery or goes outside. It's like you can slowly teach your dog when you step on the leash, or later on when they get older, they just know, okay, this means I need to chill out, just be there, But
Right. So for those that don't know, like a tether is a really short leash that you attach your dog to something safe. And pretty much the end goal is that your dog pretty much just falls asleep wherever you kind of put it. So this is a practice skill. When I tell people, relaxation is also a muscle that has to be practiced. Like if your dog isn't practicing this everywhere and everywhere, it's gonna be hard for them, especially the young dogs. But it also teaches them boundaries and just to chill out. Um,
Yep.
so
Don't mind me. I'm trying to block the sunlight right now. So okay, I'm
if
good.
if you don't know what tethering looks like, it's very boring. Pretty much your dog learns to chill out. So for some dogs, that could be 15-20 minutes. For some dogs, that could be an hour. It totally depends on the goal for you and your dog, and that varies by each dog and owner.
Yep. And I think too, just I think everyone likes when they see an active dog, when they see like an excited dog, it means like they're happy, and then they're just like they just love it, right? But then they never. It's like easy to get a dog excited, riled up, and it's harder to like get the dog to calm down. And I think just teaching calm, just being able to have the opportunity to turn like you can switch from spazzy McSpaz when you want, but then when you have a word that means like enough or like settle, then you should be able to have that dog settle. So then for your sanity, and when you have people come over for say like at least you have that word, you did prep that dog for a more exciting situation that your dog can just tone it down. But that's where like trainers like you and I have to come help in that situation. So let me see. We got yeah. Yes, they're playing at the dog puppy in bed. We
Oh, that's
got
that's a common one. They're always playing with the puppy in bed. Stop playing with the puppy in the bed. Stop.
this
And
one says
and then the puppy's gonna come up and bite your face, and they go, "Why is the puppy biting my face?" I know. See, my boyfriend's laughing.
the
This explains
boyfriend's
why Jenna ruins Netflix with her toys. Yeah, yeah.
love a good behavioral down.
The
Yeah,
behavioral is everything.
yeah,
Uh,
these are all your people, Allison. I do
they're the
not know all
best.
these people.
My people are the best.
Right on, right on. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, it's just like for the most part, I feel like people just wait for that behavior to come in. Either they don't know how to work it or they have to call us, and then it's a more intense thing. Like jumping, like just well, like just to talk about jumping in general, like whether they coming back home and their dogs are jumping on them, or when people come over, right? Like everyone, as soon as they come home, they want to go, hi puppy, hi baby, like I'm home, and just get so excited. And then all of a sudden they start jumping, and then they scratch you, then they push you, or they knock something over, right? So like just one of those things is like I tell people all the time, don't make a big deal when you leave, don't make a big deal when you come into the house. Like
You get what
especially
you pet.
yeah, especially
Get
with
what you
like
pet, people.
especially when you live with a multiple dog household like Allison and I, right? Like one dog is easy for us, but then five dogs, four dogs, it's a lot, and like it's very overwhelming because it's like five against one, But it's like for me, I come home, I put my keys, and it's like first thing is like I go to the house, I come out, I go in the house, I let them go potty. I don't make a big deal, and then once they get their potties out, and then they come and sniff me because I want them to be check me out first via scent, and then like after that they calm down, then it's like okay, now I acknowledge you because that's what I want is my dog's calm, and then I can say okay, I'll pet you for that. Because everyone's like right now, it's like especially when people come over to the house, I always ask my clients, do you have rules when people come over with the dog? And my client say, no, it's kind of a free for all. And I go, okay, you definitely have to communicate with like your guests or your family friends or your friends when you come over. Don't make a big deal about the dog. And then even too, like I can even let them drag a leash just in case, right? Like I can, if they're about to jump, you could step on the leash and then they kind of self corrects per se. But also, like one of my favorite things to suggest to people for jumping is just claiming the space. Like everyone walks backwards or turns away. When really, like when I tell them, have you tried walking forward, like taking the space before they jump, and then I do it with their puppy and like their adult dog, then they go, oh, right, they don't have enough space to fully jump, or like as soon as you step into space, it's like you take the space back. But also I also like to use a little bit of reinforcement too, like in case like if it's like depending on the case, whether I have a cookie jar like from the from like in front of the door where I can just leave a sign being like, hey, can you, when you before you enter the door, grab a piece of grab like a treat from this jar, and then when you first come in, like just don't say anything, just wave the food at their nose and then have them do a sit. So you're teaching your dog to sit. When they come over, give the treat, then you walk in, just not acknowledging them, right? Because a lot of people just want to talk to the dog, get excited, and it's just changing the pattern, just changing the expectation. I feel is a is a big thing, which I feel like most people are very anal about changing their patterns or their lifestyle for some people. But even just like there's like a I forgot who I learned this from, but it was like there's like a there's like cookie jar point A, cookie jar point B, cookie jar point C, where it's like if you reach the kitchen and the dog doesn't jump, grab a cookie and feed the dog. If you go to the living room and the dog hasn't jumped on you, give a give a treat, throw out a treat and give the dog, right? So you're rewarding all 4 feet on the ground instead of just bounce, 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 right? So there's just like people they just need a picture. I feel like they need like a pro. Like I give them like a bit of a protocol, being like, okay, when this happens, do this. When this happens, do this, right? And occasionally, I might use the help of depending on the dog and the situation, I might need the assistance of a squirt bot or a pet convincer to let the dog know, like, hey, let's not do that. And then when you offer better behavior, whether it's a sit or you don't jump, that's when I'm gonna let you and I'm gonna acknowledge you, good dog, right? So
I like to
there's a
keep it even simpler.
yeah,
I like to say keep reinforcing the dog for the same sit you started out with.
yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of people's, or what I've noticed is that there are a lot of dogs that instantly sit because they know that that's what they're supposed to do, it's what they were trained to do, but they sit and then they jump like there's a time limit because
Mm-hmm.
that typically is what gets the people's attention. So a lot of people know how to train their dog to sit, which is great. But if you need to teach your dog to do an extended sit and reinforce them for it. So if your dog sits and then especially jumps up and pushes you, and then you say, get sit, and you give the dog a cookie, look what pattern you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So especially if your dog struggles with people coming in through the door, whether it's you greet them inside or outside, and some dogs do better either or. Um, put them on a leash, which was step one, but you can reinforce and keep reinforcing that first sit and um I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Pretty much you want to keep reinforcing that first sit. So a lot of dogs struggle when the hand comes over their head when the guest greets them. You can have a handful of kibble and you can just keep feeding the dog while the dog remains in a sit position and then tell them break or give them their word, whatever after. But if you're doing sit and then sit, 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 you know,
All good. Yep, all good points. All very good points. Because
buy
a
your
lot of
time
people,
with it.
yeah. I also feel like too. People kind of wait till people actually come over to visit, and then instead of like I have clients just practice. I say maybe, hey, if you have a lot of people come over often, it's like, hey, probably maybe ask the neighbor to come practice this, or ask your family to practice this or a friend to come over because if people say, oh, we only have people come over twice a month or three times a month, that's not enough repetition to actually practice the whole ritual for people coming over. So it's like I kind of tell people, like, I tell my clients that most situation, most problems or issues you're having with your dog can be replicated, or you can create a training scenario out of it, right? So then you could just prep the dog. So when the real thing happens, the dog knows has a good idea what is expected. Like it's like I kind of tell people about, like, if they do sports or if they crafted a skill, right? Like when you play soccer, you're not like skipping practice for a week and expecting to do good at the soccer game the following week, right? It's
Right.
like repetition, consistency, like getting the muscle memory, building like the uh I forgot what's this called. I forgot that one thing in your brain. It's from the talent code that I read. Um it's like this fiber that's like once you start practicing, then the protein just wraps around it, and you get really good, and you start once you get the skill, then you only get better from there, right? But if it's only like a little bit wrapped, then it's like you haven't gone you haven't built up the skill for it, right? And so like for me, it's like I like to just have people build up those situations, or like they at least when I tell them to practice and set it up, they feel more successful, I feel like, right? Because everyone just like literally I had like one or two clients like want to practice this all the things we talked about like the next day, like when like a baby shower or things like that happen. I'm like, it's like, we only talked about this like 2 days ago. and
That's
it's like
awesome. That's
and it's
awesome.
like and it's kind of just like 2 days between, and you only have people come over like once a month. It's like really hard. So it's like for me, I'm like, take the time to set it up for your dog so you can actually teach your dog what's expected, but also you're getting more chances of being successful of teaching your dog all these things and not just yelling at your dog for jumping on your guest,
Right.
right?
You
So
gotta teach them what you want them to do before you correct them for anything. It's really not fair, in my opinion, as a trainer, to correct a dog. I mean, unless it's something really obviously bad that could get them hurt, or that's completely unacceptable. But for the most part, you can't really correct a dog if you haven't taught them. Sorry about my camera.
you're good.
It's not fair to really correct them if they haven't been taught. So if you haven't set that from the get go, you've got to set aside some rules and figure out what they are for your household, and teach the dog what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So I mean, yeah, for me, like that's my number one thing is a lot of clients talk to me about jumping. So um that's what usually I would suggest. But like what else would you do, or what else do you suggest in general when it comes to like jumping just on guests or jumping on the owners?
Put the dog on a leash. Teach an extended. If your dog doesn't have a break command, they should, because your dog essentially should be sitting until you tell them otherwise. So if you're not being proactive and asking the dog to sit beforehand, um, we got to start way back. So especially when I even quote unquote begin a conversation with the dog, the first thing I'm usually asking for with interacting with them is I'll click and mark or reward them for just an automatic sit. And that's for all dogs, whether it's a puppy, or an adult dog, until they learn just to sit automatically. But that's what I tell people when I begin a conversation with a dog. I want the dog just to simply come up and sit. That's a skill that you can constantly reward them for, whether it's you or a stranger or wherever. I saw an awesome video on Facebook a few weeks ago where it was a training session, and it was for either nervous people, or I think kids, where they were it was a sit game where they would ask the dogs to sit in a really funky manner, whether their hands were above their head or they were jumping or wiggling around, but the dogs would have to sit despite all the excitement. And pretty much it was like an emergency sit in case someone was incredibly fearful of the dog. If they showed behavior that would be exciting to most dogs, the dog would be trained to sit. So that's, sometimes the most uh, the biggest questions just have very simple answers. So yes, if your dog is jumping on people, put it on a leash and teach it what to do right away. Obviously, if they're jumping on the people, I typically have the owner um, make like a J turn away. So if the dog is being brought away, we try to capture the behavior faster. It depends on the dog and what their motives are. Um, so yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, there
That-
I can go on and on and on.
it's okay. It's okay. It's all good. I mean, it just I think just touching up on it and just like letting people listen to it kind of this way it kind of makes sense in a way I think is a really good thing for them to hear. And it's just like,
In my house, sit means please is how I think of it. So like, if my dogs want to go outside on the balcony, they sit at the door. Before they get their dinners or their bowls, they've got to sit. So that's something that I'm constantly practicing with them. So if I sit down on the couch and I watch TV and they come up for attention, I expect them to sit. But like I said in the beginning, a lot of that stuff really happens when you're least expecting it.
hmm
Like when you're sitting down to watch Netflix, dog's gonna come up in your space and want to interact with you. It's that type of instance where you need to teach them what to do.
Yep. Let's see. Let me read the comments.
I was gonna say I
So
can't believe we're almost an hour and we gotta talk to people.
I know it's crazy. I know, and I know you want, and I know I want you to talk about that golden nugget you were talking about
Wait, and jumping
with the
is a
whole.
symptom. Oh, he wants me to talk for hours on end. I'll never shut up.
I mean
He's right.
the longest video we had was maybe like I interviewed it was maybe 2 hours, but I don't want to take all your time. But let's see, jump.
I'll come back. I'll come back and we can. How do you address over arousal? Does sitting address this? No,
hmm
no, and no. It's just a band aid.
Bro, just let me. He's just like, bro, just let me in. um,
No,
that's so
we'll do some trainer banter for that.
right.
We'll save
Let's
that for the trainer banter.
see. How many minutes per day do you recommend training to get that muscle
That's an
memory?
excellent question.
You can fire away.
That's an excellent question. How many minutes per day do you recommend training to get that much muscle memory? What do you think,
So
Kevin? What's your answer to that?
honestly, it like I just tell people, and this is just from like this is a quote I got from like I think Martin Dealey. It's like I'd rather I'd rather have my clients practice with their dogs 5 or 10 minutes a day than like a whole hour on a Saturday. So
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
I I tell them if you can practice 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes over there, it's better than like you having like a full hour on one day, And it's like you don't have to train every day, but I feel like at least get some repetition going, get some consistency going where you're getting success. You're teaching your dog opportunities. Um because it's like I know some people can get sick. Like for me, I had COVID for in December. I couldn't do crap for 2 weeks. You could have a bad day. You're not in the right headspace. There's there's all these little factors. It's like it's easy to just skip a day and do something else, do something fun with your dog, and then the next day when you're feeling better, just go and practice with your dogs. Like when early in the morning or when you get back from home. So usually I just say minimum maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, and if you got and it depends on the dog too. If your dog can go a little longer, sure, maybe you can go maybe 20 or 30 minutes. So that's my answer.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I think it depends on the dog and the owner. So, like I said, I agree with you. A few minutes per day to make it a habit. I think training is kind of like a savings account. Depends on how much you put into it, or you can consider it like a muscle. How much are you moving and exercising and strengthening that muscle? So,
Hmm.
for Jenna, she's got a very interesting mix of dogs. But for your little Boston Terrier puppies, she's gonna have way more energy and way more go than her hound mix, who might do it 2 times and be done. So if your hound mix is going to do it twice, make sure it's two perfect ones, or at least two good ones. But you can get some different practice in with the Boston Terrier. So, but it should be more of a habit than anything else. Like you want to build it into your schedule, like you said. Um, but just a few minutes a day is really all it takes, and most really good training sessions only are like 2 or 3 minutes long, in my opinion.
Hmm. Let's see. I could train that Boston for 3 hours straight. She wouldn't even nap after.
Exactly. She'll do 1,000 more reps, but Ellie Mae, nah, she'll do two perfect ones and she'll be done.
Right?
And those are her particular talks. But um, I want to look at some of the other questions too, because I can get easily distracted here. So I want to stay
So
stay.
do you want to keep answering questions, or did you want to
Yeah,
talk
let me
about
see.
the?
Let me see those questions because there were some good ones, and I wanted to circle back to them.
Let's see. You want this big one?
Yeah, what's up, Abby? My 2.5-year-old dog is a sweetheart, but still barks at strangers, new guests in the house. I think it's a territorial issue because I've heard from friends and roommates that she doesn't bark as much when I'm not home. Please help. Thank you.
So your thoughts?
Um, well, it could be the handler, it could be the dog. I don't know. Some dogs do better greeting inside, and some dogs do better greeting outside.
Hmm.
Um, Although that second comments.
Start as much as soon as I'm not home. Please help. Thank
I'm
you. So
rereading it. Sorry.
it's all good. We all need time to read and like
Absorb
think about it.
information.
Yep. And then you got a big one. You got another big question from Lena.
I'd be curious if that dog is new to the house, that household,
Hmm.
because if it's 2.5, has the dog always been barking at people, or is this a new behavior? That's my question for you, Abby. And then Lena's dog is an excellent, well bred Malinois. She's very pretty and she is a sport dog, but Lena just went to vet school at Purdue, so she's having more study time and less sport time for her dog. She's been using tethers, creating baby gates for management with my own dog, Alison. I hate baby gates. Number one, I hate baby gates because I feel like dogs don't respect them, but I don't know about yours. Also, did you ever give her like a giant reaction for shredding stuff when you found her? She could also just be sneaky, because Ruka, my female Malinois, was infamous for getting into the trash at very particular times. So it could be a naughty Malinois trait that she knows. But I would absolutely correct that. Um,
This kind of brings up a certain point
Go
that
ahead.
I that I just thought of. Like when you're around the dog doesn't do, some dogs won't do the behavior, but as soon as like you leave the kitchen or you leave like
They
the
know
the
timing.
they look, it's like the area of influence is really strong, and so it's like if they're within 6 feet, they're like, I'm not gonna do anything. You go to the other room, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go grab the thing at the counter or things like that. So
That yes,
uh
that's what I was thinking, and I was struggling to verbalize. But yes, Sometimes that in itself is a learned thing, and I feel like
Yeah,
that's what your dog, Lena, and my dog, the female Malinois, are hyper aware of, especially the herding breeds.
this kind of is good because it answers a counter surfing thing that like a lot of people ask me about, and it's like between like teaching the dog like establishing space and boundaries between like not coming into the kitchen and things like that, or like I like to do food claiming that I learned from like you know like when I learned from Caesar and Tyler Muto, and but a lot of people, some people had like things where the dog would get into stuff as soon as you left the room. For the kitchen stuff, I kind of like if it's when you're not there. Sometimes, and I've like talked to other trainers about this, and I've suggested booby trap per se, like make like I think there was one example with like I don't know, like a dish rag or like something where it's like there's something on a
There's a
towel
setup.
or yeah, it's like some pots and pans. And the dog tries to take it, and all these pots and pans fall, and it's like kind of kind of
Like
like
it's an
a
act of God. It's a correction from the dog's behavior and not from you.
yeah, something of sort of like that. Like it's between that, or sometimes I do suggest like a scat mat. You know what those are?
Hmm.
Yeah, so sometimes I'll do that because I don't for me like I don't want to use an I don't want to use an e-collar just for that. The e-collar is so much more for like I can use it to teach like recall and things like that. But for some things like when they're trying to be sneaky when you're not there, sometimes I use the act of God. But I won't promote it as often. It's like it depending on the dog. So
Right.
if
So
you
I mean, you can correct the dog, but for these smart dogs, where the correction comes from is everything. Is the correction caused by their own behavior, by what that's set up is what you how you described is how it's acting. The dog thinks that that correction came from themselves doing the action is what caused it, versus coming from an e-collar, or a human yelling at them, or a noise being made, or yada yada yada.
hmm I already screamed at her. She'll do it even in front of me, but I'm not paying enough attention. She's putting her whole face in the trash. I think she does it to get my attention.
Right.
So let's see. I mean, so Roman G guys, Hercules is
Serial pooper.
I taking my eyes off him for a minute, and he poops in my living room again. Suggestions.
Oh
Damn,
my god, these are so good. These are all so good. Not what I expected.
these are all your people,
Is
Allison.
he is he one of those dogs that got yelled at and learned to become sneakier? And also, is he like always pooping the same amount? Because if you keep him outside or if you tether him, I've had him out numerous times to potty. If he's not pottying when you take him out to go, he's gonna have an accident inside. It's also
And
more convenient for him to poop in the living room. So if you let him outside and he hasn't gone, don't give him free reign back in the house.
I would expand on that. Like probably like you could even just have him on the leash with you or put him in the crate, like if you're
Right.
not supervising him.
This
So
one, this one was tethered just a few minutes ago. So this one always poops when left unsupervised after a meal. So I know she is off leash now that she pooped outside, because she gets no freedom in the apartment until she poops outside, because she is a turd burglar and last night she pooped in the kitchen. So, yeah, nope, this one cannot be left alone.
yeah, and I also the other point that I want to bring up, it's like the more repetitions your dog does something, the more reinforcing it is.
Right, they're
So
practicing.
yeah, so it's like if you can't watch them, put them away or have it where they're not able to practice or complete the behavior so that you're having a better chance of them not doing the behavior than them actually doing it. because like the more your dog jumps, guess what? Your dog's gonna keep jumping. The more your dog poops in the house, guess what? Your dog will still poop in the house. And of all things, I have a Chihuahua mix that does that exactly that. That is like I had to be really on top of it to really keep him from pooping in the house. And it took some time, but we finally got to a good point. Where he won't poop in the house. He knows when he got to go. He shows me the door, or we have the pattern. Um, and then I don't know, Rebecca, do you know if Rebecca is free feeding her dog, or is she has time portion meals?
I don't know.
Because free feeding could also influence the
Sure
pooping
can.
as well. So
Excellent point.
let's see. No freedom. Yeah, no freedom after pooping. Crate or tether. That little sucker.
What'd she say?
Lena, when I
Yeah,
said
no
no
freedom till
freedom,
after pooping. Yeah, heck yeah. No fun allowed. You
but
can't be let off leash now, so I know you can make good decisions. That's pretty much how it works here.
time portion meals, he's just a dick. I'm glad I'm not the only one talking to my dog about my dogs like that.
Oh no, definitely no. My clients know that there can be some creative terms used with their dogs.
Same with one of my dogs.
We all struggle.
Apparently, we're all bonding with poop.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But yeah, I mean, the but that did that make sense, Lena, with the dog? I hope I kind of gave you like a good idea or like an answer that maybe that helps. But seeing
She
how
said
it's
she
a
was thinking about setting up a camera, which you could totally do, especially if she's that sneaky about it. I have a feeling that she got a crazy reaction. She either got a crazy reaction from you the first time you caught her, or she figured out the timing of it. And I mean, man, that that's fun. And I know she likes to destroy stuff. She's a driving Malinois. Um, she needs stuff to do, and I know that you were also doing barn hunt with her, and you've done bite work with her and fast cast. So I know this dog's done a bunch of cool things, and this dog needs an outlet. Um, which actually kind of brings me to another point that I've been meaning to bring up, because I didn't want to make this whole conversation about place. Like, I think a lot of people were expecting us to just go on and on and on about place, and place is just a very small piece of the puzzle when it comes to teaching house manners. Um, so yes, place is something that I use to teach your dog to sit still and to give them a place to hang out. But for a lot of people with young dogs, um, teaching them to sit still, which they know that they're supposed to do, um, tethering them with a good chew really does help, especially if your dog is learning to hang out. And I do like to give my dogs bones. So, yes, we do behavioral downs and we do tethering. But also, I use a lot of bones to give my dogs downtime. So, like this afternoon when I came home earlier, my dogs had been out and whatnot, and it was time for me to shower and just kind of chill out. That was my dog's downtime. So I have one dog who constantly destroys stuff, and she just needs to. So I make sure that she actually has bones, and not just bones, but bones that she can whittle down. Bully sticks, duck feet, um, cow horns, like tons of weird. She likes Himalayan dog chews. Cow ears, buffalo ears. We do a lot of things that she can whittle down and destroy. So especially if your dog does like to destroy stuff. I don't like to have my dogs destroy boxes. I know a lot of people love that. I don't. I hate that. So my dogs, I spend a lot of money, but they're chewers. So I want to make sure that if I've given my dog a chew, that they've been outside, they're settled, right? They've played or they've exercised or they've been trained or they've had water. So all their other needs have been met. Um, it's totally okay to give your dog something special to work on, whether it's a marrow bone, or a Kong, or what's the other one? Wobblers, jumble, all the food stuff toys. That's a totally okay way to teach your dog how to sit still for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, example here, like I was out testing dogs at the shelter today. I rushed here and I knew my dogs were gonna be little shitheads about just being outside, dude. So excited. So I gave them like a big I gave them all big beef bones, frozen ones to keep them busy while we're talking. There's still some of them are still chewing on it, and even the Chihuahua gets like a little marrow bone like this size. If I give him the whole, he'll have a whole thing, but he. I kind of made him a drug addict with the marrow bones, but that's not the point. Um, but yeah, place I feel like it's just part of it, is not the whole thing. I know a lot of trainers like make it like the whole thing,
Yeah,
like
I don't want to harp on place. I mean, it has its use and we do it, yes, but that's not the end all be all to house
it.
trainers.
It's not the whole thing, but it's something that you can do with them progressively and work on it. Like and I do like place, but it's not like the one and all. It's like, you like we talk about fulfillment, we want to make sure like it's a trade-off. You want your dog to do this, well, you got to make sure your dog gets to express himself, whether he wants to run or play or be enriched or challenged or worked like the working Malinois, right? So it's like you want to be able to give them that so then you can have them be chill at home, not destroy your stuff. And like some dogs need to express that. They can't always just sit still, like not do anything, right? Like it's such a vast thing where it's like this, depending on the dog too. You have a working Malinois, you're gonna be doing like 101 things with them, like outside. Otherwise, you're gonna have to give alternatives versus like a lab, like a senior lab that's just gonna chill, hang. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think just being able to have like a good itinerary for your dog and know like a good management plan and just know what you're doing will be the big thing. It's just knowing, getting to know your dog. What does your dog need? So then you can have the peace and harmony at home and not just relying on one thing. Let's see. Aaron asks, do you leave those kind of treats out all the time or just during downtime? I definitely do it during only downtime and when the dogs are in their crates because we have one or two resource guarders in this house, so that would be a big no if that were to be left out. Let's see.
Yes. So, same here because we both have multiple dog households. With resource guarders, my dogs pretty much only get shoes in their crates or like at super controlled times. But also depends. Like if you have 12 million bully sticks out and your dogs aren't chewing it, don't give them another bully stick. Because that doesn't, that doesn't help. You want to find something novel that they do want to chew right away, so that they find it valuable. If your dog doesn't find it valuable, take it away. Because a lot of dogs learn that if they just wait for something better will come along.
Yep.
Yep. So yes, I have a vast array of treats, um, but I figured out what my dogs like, and no, they're not readily available all the time. Some of them are, but those are the things that my dogs won't stir a fight over, um, which is not much.
Yep. Yes, that helps. Thank you guys for going back to tether and supervision, going back to practice behavioral downs. Going to also take my own advice and start to feed her via really difficult food toys. Please tell these owners about not using the bowl. I'm going to do all that stuff if we reestablish ground rules and it continues, we're moving on to act of God. That sounds like a good plan. Let's
Yeah, no,
see.
no, Lena's freaking awesome. But yes, she makes a good point about not feeding dogs from bowls, which creates very bored dogs. So yes,
Hmm.
when you serve your dog's food out of a bowl, it's like a free paycheck. So when your dog has to work for their food, even if it's just out of a food toy, they have to use their brains. Um, so going back to puppy owners and going back to things to chew. So most puppy owners are really struggling. um, they usually feed their dogs in literally 2.2 seconds, and then the dog reeks off to destroy the house because they're bored. So a big thing with young dogs that I like is I will stuff their food, depending on how you feed them, in a frozen. Um, I use Westpaw Topple toys, and I will give the dog their meal frozen in the Topple toy on their place. And they might be tethered, they might not, depending on the dog. But that way, your dog is learning to actively do something and chill for a longer period of time. And especially if it is a mouthy puppy, your dog is actually consuming and using their mouth on something else for an hour that's appropriate versus your hands or your furniture.
Yep. Okay,
And
so
some
we
dogs
kind of
just
have.
need stuff to destroy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Some dogs just need to let it out of their system. Okay, we kind of have like a double whammy. It kind of is it
Oh,
relates to.
hit me. I also have to hear back from Abby, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we've. I don't think she stuck around. I'm not seeing any comments from her, but I am seeing Jenna and Diana. They're both like here, like this one. How
Dana,
do you give your
give your dog
dog shoe?
food safely when you have a household of three dogs and two in their crates.
And then walk up to her, kind of grow in the face. And then Diana is like, your opinion on dog resource guarding toys. So this kind of laps one another, I feel like. So
Mm-hmm.
going back to Jenna, which she left me another comment with my dogs. I start to get defensive over animals getting too close to their crates, or that's just my severe resource guarder. Concerned face, concerned face. I have a house of 3 dogs and 2 cats. So to answer your question, to answer both your questions, and what Allison said, yes, crates, because I am very cautious and proactive about those things. Like when you give a dog something good in their crates, is there space? No, nothing can go reach in and grab it, and it also gives you a peace of mind that you're not gonna all of a sudden have a dog fight because your dog, went to the cat went too close to the other dog. And also just like, when you have, especially when you have a multiple dog household, it's like prevention is key. And there's also just like, unless unless you made it really clear, like when all the dogs are out about and chewing their bones and things, not to go into each other's space. But that just takes a lot of work, and it's really dependent on the dog. And like I don't tell my clients to do things like that because it's a lot of uncertainty. And if like the owners are too nervous to do it, it's like, no, just put them in the crates, or just like have it where things are a lot more controlled. And trust me, we I have a severe resource guarder, and it's a 50-pound pit bull named Apple. You would not think she's be a resource guarder because she's named after a fruit, but she is. But everything she gets is in a crate because I do not want to take the chance, because she has definitely done a puncture or two on some dogs over resources.
Yeah,
Let's see.
dogs don't share. Dogs don't share. So you kind of have to know your dog. So my dogs can share certain toys, other toys they can't. Um, and same with bone. So if it's that high value, um, we just don't mess around and we don't risk it because just like you, I'm not willing to risk a dog fight. I break up too many as it is. So my dogs only get those special bones pretty much in their crates when we leave. Like that's their time to have them, and that's pretty much the only option. There are some bones that I can give them that are no problem, but pretty much my dogs are heavily reinforced running into their crates, and that's when they get their special bones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just don't. I honestly don't take a chance. It's just I'd rather be safe than sorry. Especially when I have a multiple dog household.
And then what
My
was the other
dogs,
one? Was toys, right? With dogs having problem with toys.
dog on dog resource guarding toys. So I'll let you have a crack at this one first while I try to
Oh
brainstorm real quick.
man, that depends on the two dogs' relationship. I don't know what their relationship is. If it's gonna cause more issues, it's not something I like to practice. Um, so if it's if the dogs find it that high value, they should probably be working for it, whatever it is, whether it's a ball or a certain toy. That should definitely not be a free resource if it's that high value. So in my house, that's a chuck it ball. Chuck balls are never for free here, ever. And the only time they get them is when they're working. And guess what? They will definitely cause a fight between my dogs. So when we use or play with chuck it balls, it's individually because I don't need, whether it's my females or, any of my high drive, high energy dogs to feel threatened by another dog in the pack.
Hmm.
So if it's that much of an issue, I don't really like to mess with it. Because then you're teaching the dogs to be insecure about that item as well. So dogs don't share what they value. Dogs don't share at all. Sharing is a human concept. So if you have two dogs who value the same thing, you kind of need to keep that in mind and use it in a good way and not so much a bad way. So if you're you should never be testing the waters. 'Cause that's how you set dogs up to fail. So I'm kind of curious hold on. She has 68-pound food resource garter named Mango. We share the same opinions on food, but I think different trainers have different opinions on toys. Yeah, I agree. Um, so much like Kevin, I do in-home private training, and it totally depends on the dynamic of the dogs. So of course I'm gonna say I'd rather be safe than sorry because I think any trainer should say that. Um, but it totally depends. It totally depends on what's expected in your house and what the dog's real relationship between each other looks like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, too, like it depends on what's the high value of the toy. Like, if it's a toy that they both are like not so serious about, it's like cool, maybe I can leave that out. But if it's like the ball, or if it's like something significant that they both want it and they're like really like the other dog's is starting to like defend it, I kind of just limit what those toys are. Like usually, probably I start off with not just not having the toys lay around and just control like how much of that resource I want to put out there, because it's kind of hard if if like it's kind of hard to control if all the toys are just left out and all of a sudden a fight just happens because all becomes a one Nyla bone or like one
Right, and
tennis
then
ball
if you
left
do
out.
leave it out, and then that dog really is controlling the resource, and you're just watching it happen, that's not exactly the most productive thing either. So,
Yeah, and it depends. Like like the severity of it. If it's like one Nyla bone and they're all and she's that your dog is your vicious mango is like going after the dog, then it's like okay. Or even if it's like if it's something as low value as like I don't know what can I pull an example, like just a toy just laying there and hasn't touched it for like weeks or like days, and then all of a sudden your dog guards it, then it's like I rather not leave toys out for that chance. Like I'd really rather like have it where like your dog can have some time with the toys but without the other dog around, or just have it where like she can hang out with it, and then other than that you put it away, so at least your dog, at least you're reducing the chances of having fights in the house. Because like I even like a trainer like talked to me about it. And if you have a dog that fights or like had prey drive and things like that, her saying is no stuffies, no fluffies,
eh,
right? So it's like if you have dogs that will fight over like toys, I'd rather just not leave them out, right? And just use it as a bonding time when you're with them, per se. Um, but like I said, it really depends on the severity. And like my dogs are pretty good about toys, but if it was like a tennis ball, if it was like a brand new toy, then things get a little bit more intense. Let's see. Does Apple get defensive over her crate even a day after the treat? My dog has done that and went after our cat, so I stopped giving the special bones. So,
Then FYI, this is also kind of going more into like resource guarding. So we'll might have to come back to this. This has to be
we'll have to come back to it. But to answer that question real quick,
this is good stuff though. This is the nitty gritty stuff.
I know I wasn't expecting this either. To answer Jenna's question, yes, she guards the crate. She guards my roommate's room because it's her dog. But we really just keep the crate and all that space like limited. And unfortunately, Allison, we use a baby gate
Do what you got
with
to
that.
do.
But we keep it out of access. Like unfortunately, like if it's out in the open, like in the living room where the cat's like is gonna go check it out, like I would probably have it where it's not as accessible per se. And like I said, it depends. Like it just sounds like that dog guards more, not just food but space as well, which means we would have to come up with something where we control the space and not let the dog believe that he can control all of it. So um, it's it definitely is a rabbit hole I don't want to dive in right now. But if we want, Allison could probably jump in and we can talk about resource guarding, which has been a topic I was wanting to talk about later on. So, but I hope that makes sense to everybody. So,
Sir.
I'm a trainer myself, always like hearing other fellow trainers' thoughts on topics like this. I have multiple answers depending on the dogs. Thanks for your insight.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Happy to help. And, this talk is for the pet owners and for trainers alike, because I enjoy this a lot. And you can see the past other interviews with Allison, like she and I talked about reactivity the first time, then the second time we talked about crate training, and it's all on the YouTube channel that it'll also be that you can watch. Like I have like 20 other interviews of this, so let's see. Still very helpful, thank you. So okay,
Awesome. I'm
cool.
glad.
So let's see. Here's Lena. In my opinion, dogs are freaking weirdos. If you spill the toy box, they rediscover a toy they haven't seen. It's at the bottom. It could be a fight from someone who worked in the pet ER. Just don't provide access if your dog has it, who might rediscover stuff. One snap can turn into a multiple $1,000 visit. Just skip free access resources for dogs who guard stuff in space.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
I 100% disagree with
Agree.
Lena with
You
dogs
say
being
disagree
weirdos.
or agree?
I 100% agree.
Okay.
I
I was like,
100%
what?
no, I agree with her because what the first thing she says, dogs are freaking weirdos. Absolutely,
It's
like
true. Dogs bite.
like dogs have teeth. It's
Dogs bite.
and and trust me, Jenna, and those who have resource guarding, like research guarding is a pain in the ass. It's a struggle, and we all I struggle. We do our best to just manage it and just make it
Also,
the
most
thing.
dogs resource guard. That is natural dog behavior. Don't think that your dog is different because it resource guards.
I mean,
Um,
I resource guard.
yeah, I hate sharing my food. Ask anybody.
Now we're going on a deeper personal level.
True, it's true. I don't like sharing my food at all. But and that's not just food, but it's true story. So if your dog doesn't share, that's normal dog behavior. They're predators. So
I think yeah. So that summed the above up. But yes, dogs are weirdos. Dogs are like most trainers. Most trainers that live with project dogs are jerks sometimes, and we can all relate to that. So um, let's see. I think it's almost like 6:30 your time, and it's like my
no,
dogs are
it's
probably.
8 p.m. my time.
Oh, that's right, 3 hours. My bad. Oh my God,
Yeah,
it's been a
it's a
long
school
interview then.
night.
So let's see. All right, I think we're all good with questions, but I'll read
Lena's
one last.
last comment.
You're gonna catch these hands that you're reaching out for my food, and I'm self-proclaimed smart human.
True.
I can say I'm the same breed as that, so I'm the
Sure.
same type of human. So, but okay, guys. So thank you for all the questions you guys have left. That is awesome, and I this is you can go back and rewatch this on Facebook or even on YouTube. It's streaming on YouTube that you can share, watch again, and I hope it answers some of the questions or just talked about and things in the house that could help. And thank you, Allison, for taking the time to talk to me and just have this fun conversation.
Thanks for having me. It's always the best.
So yeah, guys, this is interview one, and there's still like
There's a whole
seven.
series for those who really like Kevin. For those that don't know, for my fans, there's a whole series that Kevin is doing with some really awesome trainers with some really cool topics. So I'm just one of a few very lucky ones. So there's tons of more creative and awesome insight coming.
Yep, we're gonna.
On Kevin's page, and you don't have to be his friend. His apparently his Facebook profile is pretty much open, so even if you're not a friend of his, you can see all these interviews. That's right, right?
Yep. I made it so that anyone can watch. And if you hack my account or try to be creepy, I am definitely gonna block you. So.
Don't be creepy. My people won't be creepy. I'll speak on their behalfs, but there will be a tons good content coming along from fabulous other trainers who are really worth listening to. So especially if you're a client of mine, Kevin's going to have tons more, and I fully support all of that.
Oh, I must appreciate it, Allison.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, all right, guys, we're gonna cut the live soon, but just in case, if you guys want more information, here's her website, so you can check her out. She's a pretty cool trainer down in Florida. We'll always recommend her. That's in her anyone that's in her area. So, but yeah, we're gonna just say what bleh, sorry. I can't English at the end of the day. I
Trainers get
totally just
too.
I totally just dragged it out right there. So, but in any case, hope everyone has a good night, and then I will see you all in the next interview. So, hope everyone has a good Tuesday night. All right, bye guys.